everyone. You are listening to Composer Code, episode 16. As always, I'm Matt Kenyon, and it's a delight to be here with you all today. And it was an absolute delight to speak to this podcast guest, Grant Kirkhope, who is, I don't know, I guess he's a legend. I mean, is it safe to say that? I mean, the dude did Banjo Kazooie, he did Banjo Tooie, he did, GoldenEye 007, hello, Yooka-Laylee, Viva Pinata, Kingdoms of Amalur, and a bunch of other stuff that we talk about. He's just such a nice guy. I mean, I just wanted to keep talking to him. He's so cool. We talked about his early days at Rare, and what the culture of that company was like when they were making sort of the golden age nostalgic games that we all know and love. We talked a little bit about the differences of being an in-house composer and a freelance composer. So if that's something you're thinking about, you definitely don't want to miss that conversation. He told me a little bit about his composition process, how he thinks about music, how he begins a piece of music, which was fascinating and very practical. We talk about some of our favorite influences, how he listened to the Harry Potter soundtrack thousands and thousands of times on his commute to work. And he's hilarious. I think we all know this by now, but he's just like one of the funniest people I've ever talked to. He told a story about meeting Shigeru Miyamoto that almost had me falling out of my chair. So you definitely are going to want to stick around for that. I just want to give a shout out to my patrons again for supporting the show. Zamka and Murator, my top tier patrons, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. I tried to incorporate some of your questions into the show. If you are interested in learning more about what we're doing there, go ahead and go to patreon.com/composercode. But without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Grant Kirkhope. But so Grant, I want to say before we begin, from everything that I've read and watched about you, it seems to be a badge of honor to have the piss taken out of you by Grant Kirkhope. So I just wanted to give you the freedom that if at any point in this interview you see an opportunity to take the piss out of me, I would be greatly honored by that.
All right, I shall look for those moments.
Okay, no pressure, but if it arises, that would be great. So. Yeah,
I like to be like, I'm not that, I hate that ego thing, right? I hate that whole ego thing. I don't like it at all. So yeah. I just like to be me. So that means taking the piss. That's what I'll do. I just think I can't stand people who try to be something that they're not. Like, I'm just a bloke that writes tunes, right? That's it.
I imagine that must be hard because in LA, there's egos all over the place. It might be hard.
I mean, honestly, I've not met too many of those. There's a couple. But not too many. And I usually find the people that have got the egos are the ones that aren't very good. And the guys that are super humble are the guys that are really good. So,
well, that's encouraging to hear.
Yeah. Well, it seems so far.
Right. So I have seen in multiple interviews that you grew up saying that you loved metal. You were really influenced by metal growing up. I'm curious.
Even now, not just then, now.
Yeah. What kind of bands were you listening to? Because, metal today obviously looks very different than like metal a few decades ago, like Guns N' Roses or something.
Yeah, no, yeah. So like before that, even because I'm old, right? So like when my first kind of proper bands that, after you get to your pop phase, when you're like just a young kid, were like, it was always AC/DC and Queen for me.
Nice.
So it was AC/DC's High Voltage first album and Queen's Sheer Heart Attack. They were the two records that kind of taught me to play guitar. So, I mean, I bought every Queen album. I think they're the only band that I bought every single album of. I think even Hot Space,
wow.
No one bought. I bought all theirs. And I bought a lot of AC/DC stuff. But I love Bon Scott, right? So even though Brian Johnson is fantastic, I can't get past Bon Scott. He's just a man for me. Like, his vocals are so dirty and he's such a character and, I don't know. I'm that guy that's going to go, I like it when it was old, but I just do. I like Bon Scott better. But Brian Johnson's obviously really good and also really down to earth, Geordie bloke. So I like to see him talking. He's great. And the whole Queen thing, like Brian May guitar playing kind of taught me everything about guitar playing. Like, I tried to play like him. I couldn't quite manage it at the time. I remember learning the solo to Killer Queen and but after that, I guess I went a bit more like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Van Halen.
Nice.
I got really into Queens really heavily later on. I thought Queens were great. And right now, I'm really loving Nightwish right now. So I've only really, even though I knew of Nightwish years ago, I never really listened to them, but I love them now. And it's weird that I'm really bad at liking new music, right? I'm always bad like that. And then someone says to me, it's something great, I won't listen to it on purpose. I'm
yeah.
I'm such a pain in the ass like that. So
Right.
it took me ages to get into Nightwish, but I really like them now. I think they're brilliant. Same with Queensryche too. I took a long time to get into them, and I just got obsessed by it. But I don't really go as far as sort of Operation Mindcrime. Empire's all right, but Operation Mindcrime, to that point, I think it's great. Rage for All is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then, and I did dabble a bit in the kind of Limp Bizkit-y, thing, and Linkin Park a little bit, but not so much.
Right.
I tried, but it's not really for me.
Yeah.
I guess I'm old, so I'm an old school rocker, right?
Those old bands like Queen, for example, have such a strong emphasis on melody.
Yeah.
And I think naturally when you listen to bands like that, and I love Queen myself, and like the Beatles naturally and stuff, Led Zeppelin, they're so melodic. Even their solos are so melodic. Their guitar solos, the lyrics, everything, the vocals are so melodic. So I think that definitely informed your ability to write such catchy melodies that we know and love today.
Well, and also I think as a kid I was a bit this strange thing because I was doing the classical thing, and then I was a classically trained trumpet player from like 6. I started when I was 6, so I was going through all that kind of in the UK they call the associated board exams as somebody great up to grade 8, and then so I was going through all of that and playing in the local orchestras and all that. So I was kind of got that side of it plus the metal side. It's the two sides of me, right? So I'm not much in the middle. So it was either complete metal or complete orchestra. So it was a bit of a weird thing. So I think that really sculpted how I turned out to write in the end, probably. And I think, playing a lot of those, I can remember I was in the North Yorkshire School Symphony Orchestra, which was like a big deal to me then, because there was a whole county. North Yorkshire's a big county. I remember going to the first time I got, they had 2 weeks in Scarborough a year. We used to go and stay away for the whole week as kids, and have a really good fun time and play in a big orchestra. It was fantastic. All the best players in the county, And getting there the first time and hearing Elgar's Cocaine Overture, or I don't know, what else did we play that I thought, like Crown Imperial, things that were just so fantastically melodic. Delius, La Calinda, things that stuck with me forever. Elgar's Enigma Variations, like playing those pieces is so melody rich, that's what I aspire to. And I'm not going to get there, but that's what I aspire to.
Well, I think some of the melodies that you have written can definitely be held up against some of the best melodies in culture, in pop culture, definitely in video games. Speaking of which, the games that you actually created or worked on, composed for, played a really significant role in my childhood because I was a 90s kid. So my mom was militant about the teen rating, so I wasn't allowed to play GoldenEye, but I would sneak over to a friend's house and play it, and it blew my mind, but we were just like dumb kids, so we couldn't get past the second level. Right. And then I remember they bought me DK64, which equally blew my mind, and I was obsessed with that. And I remember the bright yellow cartridge, but my mom, I realized this is about how conservative my mom was growing up, but she made me skip the DK rap because it said, "This Kong's one hell of a guy" at the end, and she wasn't keen on swearing in the house. And then I realized in Super Smash Bros. That they changed it to heck, which I thought was really funny. So those are my. That
was still weird to us Brits, like, because no one in Britain for 1 second thinks hell's a swear word. Like,
I know, yeah.
In England thinks that, and it never for once crossed our minds that anybody in America would think that. And it was incredible to us to think that people thought it was some kind of curse word. I mean, it's just, in England, it's like, what the bloody hell are you doing? It's like no one
right.
But,
right.
You don't. I think people forget about America, that on the edges of America, it's sort of mostly normal, but in the middle, it's still are bits of that super conservative, thing that a lot of people in Europe just don't get, because it doesn't really exist there like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was so strange to us to think that people thought hell was a bit of a swear word, because Nintendo didn't say to us, never once flagged it to take it out. They never said anything to us about it.
Yeah, that is really funny, and I was raised in the South of America, so that that would make sense.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Yeah, I get that totally.
Yeah, so getting a bit geeky, in Banjo Kazooie, you had mentioned, I think, in an interview which I thought was super cool, that you had used a tritone, that you'd featured tritone in the theme because of Banjo and Kazooie's opposite personalities.
Right.
And I thought that was really neat and a cool way to kind of tell a story through music theory. And I'm curious if you could maybe unpack that, like what you meant by tritone, and also if there are any other stories that you told in your games, maybe through music theory like that?
I guess with that one, when I first started doing Banjo Kazooie, it was a platform game, and we were trying to beat Mario 64. That was our goal, right? To try to get to that, to that level. And so when it came to the music, like I knew that there was no point in me trying to write that kind of Nintendo pop jazz that they do, because they do it fantastically well, and I could never get anywhere near what they do. I'm just not that good, So I had to find my own little thing that I thought maybe I can make something sound, different or something. So I kind of hit on that tritone thing, and it sort of came from when I started the game. I wrote the music, the tune to Click Clock Woods first, because when Dream ended, Tim Stamp and Greg Mail said to me, right, change it to a platform game. Write a platform tune that you think might suit a platform game. So I just thought of a jolly tune, I just did that right. I had no idea what it's for. So, and it ended up, when it got to Click Clock Woods, I thought, that fits. But I wrote it as a general sort of proof of concept that I could write a jolly, because I've only been at Rare a little short time, that I could write a jolly platform tune, So I did that and didn't think more about it. So it wasn't really till I came back to the early levels, because after writing some, because I changed the first two tunes, Mumbo's Mountain and Treasure Trove Cove, because they were originally not tritony. I didn't get the tritone thing at the start. I didn't get it till later in the game. So, and I kind of got that a little bit from Danny Elfman. So when I got to Mad Monster Mansion, I wanted to use a dark harmony. So that main sequence is like C minor, A flat minor, C minor, F sharp major. And I kept that. I got that sequence from him as well, and I stole that from him as well. A little bit Batman movie. So, and I wanted a way to use a dark harmony that wouldn't scare the kids,
Right.
I couldn't think of how to do it. And then I was listening to Beetlejuice, and it was like, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. So when I learned that, as long as you keep it rhythmically bouncy, you can put as dark chords as you want in there, no one know the difference, right?
So that's interesting.
I kind of put that together and thought, oh yes, it got some Mad Monster Mansion start to get that kind of umpa, and I got a little bit dark, and then I kind of went back and looked at the first levels and started introducing that kind of tritone thing, sort of retroactively. So, and it came about from thinking, well, with Banjo Kazooie, the opposite characters. Banjo's a bit of a dumb bear. Kazooie's a wisecracking bird. And, F sharp, if it's in C, F sharp and C are the furthest points away from that you can get on a keyboard. That's sure. So I thought, well, let's try to do something with that. So, I just messed around with it really until I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And then as the levels went on, I kind of found myself trying to be more oddball as it went along. So when you get to the second game, you get to like, Cloud Cuckoo Land. Yeah, that one.
Okay, I can find it and put it in the show notes for sure.
I was trying to get it like, that kind of got pretty wacky, and it's probably quite annoying, really, looking back on it now. But so I used to try and, in my own head, right, I was trying to compose myself into a corner, and then try to get back from that corner back to the home key by some convoluted, nonsensy series of fifths or tritones, whatever it was, to get, So
right.
I always try to make it wacky like that, and as I say, it might not sound out to anybody else, but in my head, that's what I was doing. So that was the kind of the thing behind the whole tritone thing, to try and give it a bit of and also the oddball characters. And I felt like the oddball sound of the tritone thing really fitted the game, and also it gave it a bit of a unique sound. That, there wasn't too much other stuff that sounded like that. It wasn't like it hadn't existed before. There was plenty of guys in the past that used tritones all over the place.
Sure.
I wasn't by any means the first guy to do it, and I wouldn't take credit for that because it just isn't me. But I kind of felt at the time there wasn't too much around like that, so I guess it stuck out. But you never really know until it comes out and people start to play it. So it could have been a total disaster. People could have gone, "Oh, this sounds a lot of old rubbish," So I think that you never know. You just cross your fingers, hope for the best.
Yeah, I love when you said you would get yourself into a convoluted situation and then try to get back to the home key. I thought of that tune that's like dun 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 dun, doing that sequence of like it might have been like dominance to tonics, like all the way back or something like that. Yeah,
it's like that cycle of fifths to try to get around it and get back, and then some secondary dominant would like link to the main dominant to get back to the home key, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, I think it never takes you out of the experience of playing Banjo Kazooie, because it's like what you said, it's that bouncy rhythm, and so you're doing all these really interesting harmonic things, but you're never like, whoa, that's jarring. It just feels right. It just feels like the silly antics of Banjo and Kazooie, like a perfect score to that.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to think about the melody too, because like you can hide a lot of daft harmony with a not too jumping around melody. So the melody,
that's a good point. Yeah,
the melody is sort of singable or at least hummable or whatever, and it's not going like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can disguise what's going on underneath. People don't really notice that part, but you kind of feel it in your bones, if you like. So I think that having a melody that was reasonably singable, you could stick anything underneath it, as long as it fitted the chord sequence. Obviously, it was matched. You get away with murder. That's what I thought.
That's really great advice. So in 007, I was listening to the soundtrack, and I couldn't help but notice that some of the themes have almost like a 90s hip hop vibe in them, like the drum beats in Facility is like, and it's got like that almost like Roland 808. Like it almost sounds like it could have been programmed in a Roland 808. Were you guys listening to a lot of 90s hip hop, or where did you kind of get those influence for those beats? Because there's some of them are pretty cool.
Well, that was because me and Graham Norgate did that gig together, right? So I guess we probably did music half and half. I think people don't think that I did it, or I didn't. Like me and Graham did it. So some of the sounds in the game he put in the game, some of the sounds because he started it off and I took it over, then he finished it off. That's how it kind of worked.
Gotcha.
So he had used, I think, the 707 or the 808 kick drum. And some of the snares, I think, were actually off the 707 or 808. I'm sure they were. So nice. I was just trying to mess around to try to make something sound different. And like after, we got to use the Bond theme. And so I was just trying to find different ways to use it. Mm-hmm. You sort of run out of ideas after a while. I've done this. I did that kind of the Manticore, the frigate level, but it's like My Faith No More drum beat with the Duran Duran stabs and all that,
Right, yeah.
So you try to find. So I was just trying to find different ways to do stuff. So, I'm a metal fan, right? So hip hop wasn't really my wheelhouse. So I might have heard Run DMC, with Aerosmith. That's probably it. So if that was even out, I don't know when that was out, but that's I wasn't into that kind of music at all. So that it sounds, vaguely presentable, then I'm all the better. So, right. I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, I guess I was just trying to find something that I thought sounded cool that wasn't just normal to me.
Do you think that because you guys were in the UK and in the UK electronic music is more popular than in America at the time, that kind of subtly influenced you, or did you not listen to that stuff at all growing up?
I don't listen to it at all, but Graham Norgate's a huge electronic music fan. Like he's like
gotcha.
To the C64 and the bits, and the bits, writing chip-tune music and all that, and he loves that stuff. So Graham was always into that. He still is to this day, like Depeche Mode and much heavier bands than that, that I don't even know the name of. So Graham, a real big hand in that. I was just, it was my first game, so I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just messing around until I thought something sounded good, and then if it sounded good to me, I thought, well, maybe it might sound good to somebody else. So it was like that.
I know some of the limitations on the N64 was a problem. You guys had to come up with some creative solutions musically. I remember you mentioning that you had to loop the hi-hat, so it's like that.
There's a cymbal, not the hi-hat, the actual.
The cymbal.
Because it was such a long, it would go dish, and the decay was so long on a cymbal.
Mm-hmm.
In time memory, in the time machine, just on one sample, so we had to kind of go, just take that bit,
right,
and then loop it, so it went, and put an envelope on it, so it went.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounded dreadful, but that's all we could do.
Were there any other sort of tricks or things that you guys had to employ to make the samples fit on the cartridge?
Well, just they had to be tiny. So you'd take nothing was anywhere approaching CD quality, not even half CD quality. It was like your best bet. You might get some things at 16 kilohertz. I mean, CD quality is 44, right? So, and a lot of things were 11 or even 8. So, like kick drums were at 8 kilohertz because they didn't need a lot of top end. So, a bassy sound could be like cut it all down the smallest you could get, and we just tried to make things sound bearable. It was a very small memory footprint. Plus the fact even the MIDI files, which are tiny, right? We had to keep them under 100K, was it? Something like that. It was tiny. So if you had a drum beat that was like dunk, 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 dunk for the entire track, right? We could take one bar of it and put it at the start of the MIDI file and put a marker at either end of it. So we just and give it to say our markers were like, it was like CC 102 and CC 104, I think. So and we could put a number in there. So we'd say loop 44 times. So it could take that one bar and hit the marker and play it 44 times. So that would save you writing it out 44 times. And even though that's tiny, it saved memory. Physically, those notes were in the MIDI file anymore. So it's one bar at the start. So it meant if you had to come back and rewrite the MIDI file or come back and alter it, it was a real pain in the ass to work out what you'd done because there's little boxes all over the place.
Yeah.
You couldn't play it in its entirety. You had to kind of go out bars, and it was a real pain in the ass to do it. So like even in the MIDI files, we had to cut things right back.
When you listen back to the GoldenEye soundtrack or some of the Banjo Kazooie soundtracks, I know for me, I have nostalgic ties to those sounds, even though they're obviously the fidelity is low. Do you sort of accept the nostalgia of like, okay, this is pretty cool in hindsight, or do you wish like, man, I wish I could go back and remake it with the technology we have now?
No, I think I like it the way it is. People often ask me that, and I think I'll keep talking about I'm going to do my own Banjo Kazooie remix album at some point. I'll get around to it, God knows when. But I just sort of like the way. I'm not happy with the way it sounds. Really, I don't think I go back and change anything in my career. I think everything I've done so far, I just leave it the way it is. Really, I don't have to change anything. I think that Banjo Kazooie sounds that way because of the way it is. And also, I often felt that sometimes when you've got limitations to stuff, it makes you be more inventive with what you have. You have to be more creative with it. I think that these days, you put your one finger on a keyboard, you can get this great big huge swathe of noise. It's amazing, But back then you had nothing. So all you had was a decent tune and a set of chords. If that was the best thing you could do, So I guess a lot of the guys I know back then, I feel like they know how to write a good tune because you had to do that. Also, being Rare back then, Rare were obviously nearly half owned by Nintendo and massive Nintendo fans. So all the time, Tim Stamper and Greg Nails were saying to me, listen to those Mario games, listen to those tunes, that they can listen to those music over and over again, don't get tired of it. You need to do that. You need to be able to write a melody or a piece of music that's going to last for 100 times round on a loop or more than that, for hours on end. And, so we were preached like that. All the Rare composers were preached that all the time. And I think, I'm glad of it now. I think it was a great training to go through that.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those things like Star Wars, for example, shot in 1977. And then every time it was remade, all the fans, there's this giant outcry. I think it's almost like the 007 and Banjo Kazooie songs are so tied to the sounds that it's like the nostalgia plus just the comfort of the N64 sounds, which reminds us of our childhood, makes it just such a great experience to listen back to even now. So obviously you spent a lot of time at Rare and then scoring the N64 games we know and love. And now you're sort of on your own and you've kind of been everywhere in between. I think it's super valuable for composers to talk to people like you because you've been in freelance positions, but you've also been in in-house positions, and you've also got to see how the industry for composers has changed, like the indie revolution where anybody can make a game now. What have been some of the biggest changes that you have noticed in the gaming industry specifically for composers throughout your career?
I think composers' life's got harder, I think, for definite, because I think you're expected to do it all now. People want you to write it and to mix it and to master it and to everything, right? Unless you've got a big budget where you can get other people to do that for you. And I don't have that luxury. So I think that, you have to be, you're expected to be a lot more technical than you used to be. Mm-hmm. A lot of these big, giant Hollywood composers have teams of people that do it for them. So they'll do the MIDI file and say, right, you take this away and make it sound great. Get the library in there, make it sound amazing. And there's people that are just MIDI mock-up guys that just do that for a living, and make a lot of money out of it. So I think someone like me, you have to be, and I don't think I'm very good at it, but I think you have to be prepared to do that. So I think like for Mario Rabbids, about 45 minutes of that was live orchestra, but the rest of it was my MIDI, just me MIDI sat here with my samples. I think it sounds okay, but other people may not. It's like you have to get good at that. And I think you just have to be prepared to do everything yourself, because all the networking stuff, all that stuff, you have to get to know people. It's so difficult. And I think, there are a gazillion brilliant composers out there, way better than me. Like, there's just so many people. And it's just, how do you get heard above the noise? Like, I'm a little bit fortunate because I've been doing it for 23 years, but it's still hard for me. It's hard for everybody. So many composers talk about feast and famine, like it's going great, it's going terrible, it's going great, it's going terrible. Because it just is,
Yeah.
I think the indie thing, like I love the indie guys. Like I've got a good set. I mean, Jimmy Hinson's a good friend of mine, Big Jack Circles. Danny Van Oscar's a good friend of mine. He's Daniel from, C418 from the Minecraft guy. I know these people well, And Danny said to me, why don't you come to the indie games part of GDC? I never used to go to that bit. He said, you'd be surprised. So I went along to it. And I liked it because I do like that slightly hippified image of let's just make a game, guys. We're all just sat here doing bugger all. I like that, When I started at Rare, that's what it was like. It was guys that were sat in the bedrooms working on Spectrums and Assembler. They ended up being the great programmers at Rare back in the day. There was no college courses to do. You couldn't. There was nothing, no one showed you how to do it. You just picked it up yourself, right? And I like that attitude. And so, I mean, I guess indie guys had that thing where we're going to make a game in 6 months, and 5 years later they're still making it. So they learned the hard way.
Yeah.
How to get it right. I met quite a few guys that went, oh yeah, I thought I'd do it in 6 months, and here I am 4 years later. It's still not quite finished.
Sure.
The games are hard. I do like that indie attitude. It's great. So some of the indie musicians are fantastic, and they have a different way of looking at things than I do. I like all of that, and I think it's changed. I think technology's changed a lot. I think the fact they can use these great bloody huge sample libraries now. I just recently bought the Spitfire stuff, and it's amazing. I mean, I had the Hollywood brass strings and Woodbig before that, which was really, really excellent. Mm-hmm. And the Spitfire field is a step up. And people are constantly bringing out these libraries that are just amazing. I mean, they still require quite a bit of massage to make it sound good. Mm-hmm. But I did something the other day, and they thought it was live orchestra. It wasn't. It was just me sat playing here. I was quite flattered because I don't think I'm very good at that. It's amazing. But I did see something about there was some music supervisor or something like that was sort of saying that it's easy to see how you can almost tell how old the people are from the stuff they send in. So the younger guys, it'll sound amazing. It'll sound like a real live orchestra, but there might be a lot of content or real tunes there. The older stuff that's got a real melody and well harmonized and well orchestrated, but it sounds like shit.
Interesting.
Older guys like me can't work the gear, So I think at some point we'll get to that middle ground where we can all do it a bit better. I am getting. Yeah, it is very different. I think there's so many different ways to do it, and you really can just do it sat at home with a laptop. It's possible.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you said that the younger people tend to send in that stuff, because I found that at least with newer games, there tends to be less of an emphasis on melody. I don't know if you've noticed that, but in a lot of AAA games, Mario and Rabbids, barring Mario and Rabbids, which has a phenomenal score, by the way, I really like it. And I love your arrangement of Peach's Castle. I had to tell you that.
I was in tears doing that. I loved it. Yeah.
It was so good. The winds are beautiful, and it's like this. It's got this perfect Kirkhope spin on it. It's fantastic. So, well done there. But I have noticed that, like what you said, like there has been this lack of emphasis on melody, and it's interesting because, like you said, I grew up in the '90s. You had to make a good tune. You had to have good harmony in order for it to be memorable. As kind of a part two to that first question I asked, I'm curious, what are some of the things that you maybe liked about being an in-house composer, or that versus what you like as being a freelancer? Like, what are the pros and cons been throughout your career of working in-house or working sort of for yourself?
Well, I think working at Rare was just incredible. Like, to get to the age of 33, what I was, to get I never had a job in my life. I played in rock bands, all that stuff. I did all that kind of thing from left university at 22. And then I ended up getting a job at Lorette. So I was 11 years. I was kind of playing in bands, off and on unemployment all over the place, like that. Sometimes doing great, sometimes doing terrible. Living at home with my mother. I never moved out of home. I was there till 33, which is quite rare for people these days. But to get that job at that point in time was just, one, it was, I don't know how I managed it. It was incredible. I mean, I don't know how I got in there. It's just ridiculous. But, to do that, I did that for 12 years. So one of the great things about doing that was you got used to getting up in the morning, going to work and starting composing at 9 in the morning. It's like a job, like any job of anybody. You go to the office, you turn your gear on, you start to write music.
Sure.
9 till 5, you did it 9 till 5 for 12 years. So that's, for me, a great regime to get into. Sometimes creative types like to kind of wait until the wee hours of the morning or in the afternoon when they feel relaxed. And that's not me. I'm a workman-like composer. I started at 8:45, 8:30 these days. I start and write music from the word go. It might not be very good, but I'll start it straight away. I think that's a fantastic regime to get into. I don't have to wait for inspiration. I'll work at it. I'm not that kind of inspirational guy. I just work at it till I think it sounds good. If it sounds good, fingers crossed, right? So that was a great thing to get into. And just being part of that whole Rare creative thing So for me, that was a golden years of Rare. I got there just as, they'd had all that success on the snares of Donkey Kong Country. Then N64 came out. That was just amazing for Rare. And I kind of feel after that, it didn't go so well. And I left, I guess, for that reason. And being around Tim Stamper and Chris Stamper was super special for me. I found Tim to be a mad genius. He could be equally terribly wrong and equally amazingly right. And he had that way of saying, Grant, that's great. What about this? And there was always a what about this at the end of it. You go, oh yeah, I should do that. He always had something to say about something. And Greg Mayles too. Like those guys, it was fantastic working with them. Those days were incredible for me. When Tim Stamper and Chris Stamper left the company, it lost its luster for me. It's just wannabes, right? And I don't want to be part of that. That was a great thing to be part of. I kind of feel that. But the freelance thing is good because I get to make my own hours, right? I don't have to go anywhere. Like I know that. When for me writing music, I'm best between sort of somewhere in the morning, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock till about 2, and then I'm pretty crap. It's not worth me doing anymore until later on. So I'll stop then, have my lunch, go and get the kids from school, mess around a bit, do the groceries, whatever, and then have dinner, and then start at night if I've got more work to do, if I'm busy, and I can do that. But I often the afternoons at Rare I'd be sat not enough to sleep, so I can't stay awake, and I'm not very good and all that, So I get to choose my own hours, and I know when I work best. So that's a good part of being a freelance part. And a bit of freelance is like, it's just feast and famine. I'm going fantastically well, or I've got no work. Oh, it's going fantastically well, or I've got no work, And I'm a bit of a panicker. My wife constantly moans at me for panicking. But so when there's no work, I'm like, oh, we're going to lose the house. I'm destitute, no money. Yeah. The kids, etc.
Yeah.
Like that. So I'm very hot and cold. There's no middle ground for me. I'm either elated or depressed. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, isn't that the creative type though? I mean, I'm the same exact way. I totally understand that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think creative types are like that. I don't think you ever get over that. I'm never going to get over that. And like, you spend most of your time thinking what you've written is not that great. You're only really ever 75% happy with it. You're never going to get to the top of it. Because you're always going to go, oh, that's great. Let's listen to Harry Potter. Oh, John Williams is amazing. I'm shit.
Yeah,
a bit like that.
Well, I don't know if it's John Williams, man. That's not fair. I mean, you can't compare yourself to John Williams. That's rough. That's a high bar right there.
You have to. I call it the curse of aspiration. I think that I'm never going to be absolutely happy because I'm never going to get to where I want to be ever. Doesn't matter. If I even get an Oscar, which I'm never going to do, I'm still going to go, what's the next thing after that? What's after an Oscar? It's not going to be. I'm never going to get to that point. I'm always going to be aspiring to the next thing. I can be better. I can do better. I can make myself better. I can write a better tune, orchestrate better, be more elaborate, be more decorative. All that stuff that I want to do. I'm never going to get there. Not in my head. So it is a bit of a curse, and I kind of wish that I didn't have it. Sometimes I can kind of go, yeah, that's great. I'm happy. But I never get there.
Do you find that you're your own worst critic when it comes to your music?
Always.
Yeah.
Like never, never happy with it. You get to a point and go, I just can't make it any better. That's as good as it can be, and I just go, So I do occasionally have moments when I kind of go, oh, I like that. That's good. I like it. I'm really happy with that.
Yeah.
You get those moments, but
sure.
Few in between.
So I'm curious, when you get a creative brief, you mentioned that you start kind of working around 8:30 or 9 in the morning. When you let's say you get a new project and you're like, okay, here's Civilization or Viva Pinata or something like that. Do you like to start with I'm curious. I'm super curious in composers' creative processes. So I'm curious if you like to start, you go right into the DAW or at your piano and start writing music, or do you communicate, ask questions of the creative director? Do you sketch out ideas? What's usually your process for getting started? Because I find that usually getting started, the first step is usually the hardest when it comes to like giant creative projects.
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really. I think that when I was at Rare, I kind of got known as being a bit of a bolshy, moody, miserable git. So I didn't kind of leave me alone to get on with it, and don't bother Granny London, like that. Right. So I'm sure the guys at Rare will attest to that. But once you get out of that thing and you start to be a freelancer, you have to start to be nice to people. Which, I'm not very good at. I'm good at it now. I wasn't back in the old days. So you just, I think it is hard to get that first thing off the ground, especially when you don't know somebody. Like, so when, you know, a lot of the work I do, I usually get, there's some tenuous connection to somebody somewhere. So I'll know somebody a little bit. So, you know, but like when it came to Mario Rabbids, I didn't know Davide Soliani at all. Any of the guys there. It was completely cold call from them to say, would you like to do it? So, you know, getting that first tune out was difficult because it's like, one, it was like a new bunch of people. Two, it was Mario, for Christ's sake. Like, you know, how on earth do you approach doing a Mario game when Koji Kondo is a legend?
Right.
I'm not a legend. You know, it's like, how do you do that? Like, he, you know, he's the king of everything. And I'm this kind of, you know, little Padawan guy going, well, how do I do this? You know? So, I mean, that was hard. But luckily, the first tune that I wrote, they quite liked it. So I was lucky there. But, you know, you just... I remember I was flying back, went to Paris to meet those guys. Someone wanted to meet me. So, and I remember flying back in the plane, and I got an idea on the plane on the way home, thinking that would be a good idea for that first look, that ancient garden, the first bit. It kind of kicked in my head like that.
Yeah.
It kind of worked out all right. I think any composer worth the salt, if someone says to you, all right, it's a frozen ice castle, straight away I'm going to think to myself, like, Celeste, you know, Glockenspiel, pizzicato strings, things that are spiky and icy in my head, right?
Right,
right. Yeah, or if it's like, it's a lovely warm forest, like in the plains of Erethel in Kingdom of Amalur. I was thinking, oh yeah, I could just use just strings then. I'm just going to use major chords only and make it all modal and just like, you know, all consecutive fifths all over the place that you're not supposed to do. But, you know, who cares? You know, I don't care. I'm not at school anymore. I can do what I like, you know. So
yeah,
let's make it really major sounding, just strings and maybe just woodwinds, but all major chords, almost modal, just playing a tune with a triad, you know, and all that kind of thing. You know, you do get little daft ideas like that, and just go with it, see how it works out. You know, I think all composers, when someone talks to them, is going to get an idea before they even touch the keyboard. But like I often say, I'm not really a very intellectual composer. I'm not really like that. I'm a very sort of, I get instinctive. It can easily be wrong, but I just mess around until I hear something that I like, and then that's how it goes. I'll load up a sample or French horn, whatever it is, and mess around with it until I think it sounds good. I've got a chord sequence or a melody that I like, and either can come first. You know, I don't think there's any hard and fast rules for anybody. You just do what you like. I think that I did spend a lot of time being classically trained. I did do harmony classes when I was at the Royal Northern College of Music, and I was very bad at it. I failed the exam. That was for 4 years. You had to pass it within the 4 years, and I failed it 3 years out of 4 because I was so bad at harmony. You know, doing figured bass and all that stuff. I kind of thought, what's the point of this? You know, I don't need to do it by numbers. I need to do it by my ear. Having a good ear is the most important thing. So, like, even though at college I was dreadful at harmony, the college orchestra rehearsed every Tuesday and Thursday morning, and I don't think I missed one of those mornings in 4 years. I went every Tuesday and Thursday morning from 9 till 1, whatever it was, watch the orchestra play everything from whatever they were playing, whether I liked it or not. And I feel that taught me more than any amount of harmony exams or any amount of harmony teachers who were brilliant, and I couldn't understand them. If you can hear it, you can write it. That's what I think. You just have to get stuck into it, get stuck in and have a go. If it's crap, just have another go. And have another go until it gets better. You know, it's all you can do, really. I'm waffling on now, so I forgot the question.
No, you've answered it well. I was just talking about kind of, well, I don't even remember because I was so into what you were saying, so I don't even remember. But either way, it was good stuff. What you said, one thing you said reminded me of an interview that I actually read with Koji Kondo, where he said that he would always get ideas for melodies while he was doing things like riding his bike or taking a shower. And so you mentioned that melody ideas kind of popped in your mind, which I think is a result of what you said. If you have a good inner ear, you know, if you have an ear that can detect good melodies and good harmonies and kind of internalize those, that kind of stuff happens. Do you find that a lot of your melodies will come to you when you're doing sort of benign tasks like taking a shower or doing the groceries or what have you?
Sometimes. I've got to say shower is my number one. I do get ideas in the shower. That's funny, that is. That's the kind of place so I kind of stand there and it just comes to me like that. Other places, not so much. Sometimes it comes to me like that, but I'm not sort of a great melody pop in my head. I'm more like, here's a set of chords, I'll try and weave a melody in between it. This sound a bit weird. In my head, I look for the odd note, the note that's a bit weird. And even though it's not, like, so if I was playing C major and A flat major as a thing, I'd be looking at the E and the E flat.
Okay.
It's sort of, to me, it's sort of major E minor, even though no, it's not. Like, so I'll be looking at that quality. That I like that thing. So. And so I look for that odd note. So, you know, and even though it's not odd, it's just the way that my brain looks at it, but that's how I see it. So I look for the slightly odd note that I can weave it in there and it's mold it into the chord sequence, and it just gives it that extra bit of quirkiness, that extra bit of catchiness. So it's slightly odd, but it fits. And even though it isn't odd at all, I know I'm talking nonsense, but that's how my head looks at it. you know. And I use the same bloody chord sequences over and over again. I just do. I think you find stuff that you like and just do it, keep doing it, right? I'm not particularly inventive. But I just like to. I enjoy sculpting a tune into a harmony. I like to do that. That's one of my favorite things. That is my most favorite thing. Actually, orchestrating it into lots of parts for the orchestra and all that stuff is a bit of fine-tunedness. The bit I most enjoy is a basic meat and potatoes, set of chords, melody. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing as well. Well, I notice in your later work, it's very film score influenced, like in Yooka-Laylee and even in Mario Rabbids. I hear lots of like chromatic medians and stuff like Danny Elfman, John Williams type film score stuff. And I remember in an interview a while back that I saw with you that you were thinking about pursuing maybe movies or films or that sort of thing. Are you still interested in that? And is that something that you're still pursuing in the future?
Yeah, 100%. But it's hard, right? Hard to get in. I'm trying. Don't believe me. I've tried out for tons and tons of things. It just haven't got any of them. Right? It's hard. It's definitely hard. There's, living in Hollywood over here, there's umpteen guys that are brilliant, right? Thousands of guys that are brilliant. To break into that is hard. Like, I think that the only way someone like me would get into that, and I am trying super hard, is you need to know a director. He has a final say, or maybe a producer might suggest you for that, or by some fluke, they may have heard a game you've worked on that they liked. And who's that guy? I like that. Like Michael Giacchino with J.J. Abrams, who played Call of Duty or Medal of Honor, whatever it was. And so I like that guy. Got him to do Alias, and then off he went. So there's not too many examples of that. It's like Giacchino, and I was like, probably. It's bloody hard. And I'm trying super hard to do it. And I've done some shorts now. I did a movie with year before last, that King's Daughter, which is like, it's a big 40 million budget movie. Pierce Brosnan, William Hurt, that Kaya Scodelario, who's the girl out of Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a big, it just never came out. So it's gathering dust. They're fighting over it. Another thing I learned about movies is there's so many more people to fight with. Not me, but they all fight amongst themselves.
Right.
So it may come out at some point. Yeah. I've done since. There's one I've just done at the moment called The Wrong Rock, which is with a guy called Mike Kaywood at Hero Mation. And he was one of the guys that worked at Rare, bizarrely enough, years ago. We didn't know at Rare since we both live in LA. He's a guy who works in Hollywood now on movies as a previous guy. He does his own stuff from time to time. So I've just done The Wrong Rock for him, and it's great. It's a little short 12, 14-minute animation. It's super high quality because he's worked at DreamWorks and all over the place. Not coming out soon, we're just doing the festival run with that now. I'm also just doing a little movie for a guy called Joey Bravo, who's another director guy I've met. So, I think these people are possibly stars of the future. But I do think that's your best bet of trying to get into movies. Like, I have pitched for tons of Disney cartoons, DreamWorks stuff, Nickelodeon, you name it. I haven't got any of it. I've not even got a sniff, not even a callback to say, try again. And it's probably just that I'm crap, right? Whatever I write's not very good, I'm guessing. But, you might, for a Disney cartoon, you might get 80 or 90 composers going for it.
Wow.
Who all write a piece of music. Sometimes with Disney, you'll often get a little animatics, the hand-drawn thing, or like DreamWorks to say, just chuck in a reel. But there's usually 90 guys, and some of them submit 2 or 3 tunes at a time. So if you're that guy looking for the tune, to go through all that stuff and find the one you like, I won't want to do it.
That's hard.
Yeah. It's hard. So, and just for you to stand out amongst the crowd there, I think it's undoable. I mean, people do get it. It doesn't work for me.
Well, I'm confident that I will see some Grant Kirkhope tunes in the cinema soon, because I feel like your music is so well suited for film. Like when you talked about the planar harmonies and kind of harmonizing fifths and 3 chords kind of moving all over the place, John Williams does that all the time. So I think it's just a matter of time, but you have my vote of confidence. I'll just say that. But
I stole that idea from him. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I had a watershed moment, right? For me, like, I always thought John Williams was just incredible. That I couldn't get anywhere. I couldn't even understand it. It was so elaborate. And when I came to do that game, Kingdom of Amalur Reckoning, I came to do the first boss piece. I think it was called Baylor. I thought, bollocks, I'm just going to have a go and let's have a crack at it. Mm-hmm. So for that piece, I just thought I need to just try and just really go for every single beat of music. I need to really just go for it. Like, add as much woodwind ornamentation like John Williams does, get lots of glockenspiel in there, all that things that he does so well, So I really tried super hard, and it sort of worked. I was like, bloody hell, I've actually done something that it's nowhere near as good as him, of course not, but it's definitely on the right track.
Yeah.
But the penny dropped, and I kind of went, oh, you know what? Maybe I can do something like. Maybe I can write music of that complexity, and still get the point across with a melody. Like, because I think with John Williams, you know, people know him for his great big melodies because he's always on the money, right? But in between that, he's got like such elaborate, a million ideas in 30 seconds. You know, he just goes through so much stuff. I can't believe how he generates it all. You know, and then he's still the big beat when it needs to be there. So I kind of call it his tread water music. So like it's got this big tune, and it's like all over the place, back to the melody, all over the place, back to the, you know. And so I kind of go, why can't I do that? So I just literally listened to the first 3 Harry Potter soundtracks in the car on the way to work and home back from work every single day for 4 years. Literally.
Wow.
Like, you know, and maybe a bit of Hook as well, but like very small, like just those, because I find for me, and the Harry Potter, I love that so much because I love the books too, but in the movies, but I love John Williams' scores, his 3 scores for those movies. They're so elaborate and they're so rich and harmonically rich, and the ornamentation is amazing. It just is so complex, and the tunes are always right on the money, you know, always a big themes, you know. So I chose those 3 scores, particularly the first one, to like just to listen to over and over and over, and literally thousands of times. I'm not joking. I listened to it every day for 4 years.
Wow.
And it taught me such a lot. And I'd pick up something nearly every day. I'd go, oh, I need to try that. I need to try that. So literally I just nicked all of it from John Williams. Obviously I can't do it as well as him, but I tried, and it did make a difference to me. I feel like I think my scoring changed at that point, like around 2010, somewhere around there. That's when I feel like I started to understand it a bit. And so I've used all of that stuff that I've learned. I'm still listening to that stuff right now. I just listen to the same stuff over and over again. I'm really dull like that. So, and I think it taught me an awful lot about orchestration. And then I started to go to, you know, I really can do some of this. It's not completely beyond me. A lot of it is, but some of it isn't, you know.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan myself of transcription, which is something that I sort of start, even if you just do it by ear or if you write it out in musical notation. I've found that transcribing Koji Kondo's songs, for example, has been incredible in my ability to really study how he crafts a melody. Kind of like what you said, rather than just say, oh, I'll never be as good as him and I'll never be as, you know, whatever. But if you actually listen to his stuff and start to realize, okay, you know, he's just human. He puts his pants on one leg at a time. He is amazing, but you know, and so you can start to see patterns of how he crafts melodies and that sort of thing. So I think that's really cool that you kind of had that moment. I understand, this is kind of shifting gears. I understand that you kind of have a funny story about meeting Shigeru Miyamoto.
Well, it's a bit of a drunken cloud, that is.
Well, if you're inclined to share it, I would love to hear it.
Well, it was when the E3 was in Atlanta. The E3 went to Atlanta a couple of times, or 2 or 3 times, I can't remember now. And we went to the thing. And like, we were half on the Nintendo. We always got to the Nintendo pre-E3 party. It was a bit of a posh affair, you know. And it was at a museum, I think. And I just got this bizarre memory of, what's that jazz guitar player? George Benson. I think he was playing. I think he had a band that he was playing. I might be wrong. I was drunk. And we had this thing at Rare where we used to always try and pull each other's, in the summertime, right? We used to all wear shorts. We used to always try and pull each other's shorts down in Barrow. That was I know it's a crazy thing on the banjo team, not anywhere else. Yeah.
I did that in high school. We used to call it pantsing.
Yeah. And like at Rare, we used to have this thing called cake slap shorts down. So every time someone had a birthday at Rare, they had to bring their cake in. And at 3 o'clock, we'd all have tea, just on the banjo team, we'd have tea at 3, like you do in Britain. We'd all get a slice of cake. And if you stood there with your cake in your hand, someone would come up and hit the cake like that. So the cake behind you and pull your shorts down, so you get cake slap pants down, right? Or shorts.
Yeah. That's pretty great.
Take a bit, you get shorts like that, these shorts will be down, you know. You have to tie your shorts really tight. Yeah. Shorts really tight, really belted, so no one can get them down, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just remember being in the men's room at this bloody E3 thing. And I remember George Andres, who's a great friend of mine, he was an assistant designer on Banjo Kazooie, and he designed DK64. He's now a king in Spain. And me and George were great mates. So, you know, we're all, you know. I remember he was at the urinal, and I remember trying to pull his trousers all the way down when he was at the urinal. And he might have one hand, he might have hold them up. I couldn't believe it because he's really strong. George is a muscle guy, right? And I was like, on my knee, trying to pull his trousers down, really drunk. And I looked around, and Mr. Miyamoto stood right there looking at me.
Oh my gosh!
And that's just that drunken memory. And everyone cares, video Grant, do you not see Mr. Miyamoto? I kind of can't sort of remember it. That was it.
Was he Was he laughing at the joke, or was he just kind of staring wide-eyed?
I think he was like sort of stony faced. I bet you can't remember it. I remember just prior to that, I was outside and I saw Tim talking to him, and Tim could do a little bit Japanese. And when he finished, I went across and I said, hello, Mr. Miyamoto, I'm the composer for Banjo Kazooie, and I think he just couldn't tell what I was saying. I was trying to say that, but he's kind of smiled and walked off. And then in the men's room on my knees, trying to get my friend's trousers down. So I didn't go so well. So I haven't seen him since. That's that.
Yeah, well, clearly it didn't hurt your chances of getting Mario and Rabbids. So maybe all's well.
Yeah, he's probably forgotten by then, right?
What's something, that you can share, maybe that you're working on? I know there's lots of NDA stuff, but it's something that you're either working on or looking forward to as you look down over the next few years.
I can't share anything right now. I don't think, it's all, secret stuff as always.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I just want that chance at that great big bloody blockbuster movie. I want that chance. If I completely arse it up, fair enough. Mm-hmm. I just want that chance. I want someone to go, give Kirkhope the chance at this.
Yes.
I know that Illumination are making a Super Mario movie, right? And I would love to do that. And I kind of feel that having worked with Nintendo, with Mario Rabbids, I know how protective they are of that IP, and rightly so.
Sure.
They made sure my music was respectful and all that stuff, and I totally understand. So they know that I would be the kind of guy that would be respectful to Mario, and I could do that movie, if we were out of my street.
Yeah.
Also, I guess that or something in the Harry Potter universe, kind of movie in the Harry Potter universe, I would literally kill to get the chance.
Yeah.
Because I love that kind of magical fantasy. It's right up my street, that is. That's what I want. I want the chance. Mm-hmm. One chance. And if I arse it right up, never give it to me ever again, right? That's the thing that I want the most.
So who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to blackmail to get Grant Kirkhope on the Mario movie?
Well, it's Illumination, right? So I guess it's Chris Melandandri. He's the top guy at Illumination. I don't know. I guess they're owned by Universal. I don't know. I've told my agent, if you just get me in that door to meet those people, if I balls it up, fine. But I kind of feel that I must be the only Western composer to have touched Mario. I must be, or there can't be very many.
I think you are. I mean, because even in the Mario offshoot games, in the ones where Koji Kondo doesn't score it, like of course the mainline Mario games are all done by Japanese composers at Nintendo. Yeah,
always. Yeah. So I kind of think that, I've got all the cinematic sequences from Mario Rabbids, which probably makes its own little movie by itself, right? I can stick to that to show that I can write cinematic music, which is ridiculous because every games composer can do that, right? It's not like sometimes you get that, you do games. It's not like Game Boy anymore. It's not like that anymore. It's just like movies now. There's no difference, right? You might loop the music round, but that's maybe the only difference. You still write for there's tons of great big orchestral composers in the games world that write for
absolutely
movies. So I kind of feel that if sometimes these movie types don't believe games guys can do it, I'm going to stick together all my little cinematic sequences from Mario Rabbids and say, there's a little movie by itself, right? Listen to that. I think it's good enough. Proves I can do it. Otherwise, they're just going to get some AAA Hollywood guy who maybe doesn't care. He just gets another AAA movie to do. If I got to do a Mario movie, I would pour my entire existence into writing that soundtrack. If I got the chance to write something for Harry Potter, a movie, I would pour my entire existence into writing that thing.
Yeah.
There'd be no room in my life for my wife or the kids or anything, or money or rent or mortgage. I just do that and nothing else.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know how much more passionate I could be about it. I would pour my entire existence into that project.
Oh man, well, I am really pulling for you. I really want this to happen now. I feel like this needs to be it's like poetic justice. I mean, it has to go to you and not, a AAA composer, listen to how much you care. Well, Grant, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with me. I know you do a ton of interviews, so I appreciate you suffering one more. And it's been...
Yeah, but I always think I'm always happy to talk to anybody. Like, if anybody want to talk to me, it's an honor, really. I'm just a bloke that writes tunes, for God's sake. So, if you want to talk to me, it's fine by me, So, no, thank you for asking me to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate your humility and, your willingness to talk with people, especially younger guys in the industry and gals. So thanks again. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to see if I can try to get you on the Mario movie with my limited contacts and completely lack of power.
Yeah, that's one, right? That's one person, one advocate, right? One's better than none, right?
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Composer Code. If you'd like to help make Composer Code the best it can be, consider supporting the show on patreon.com/Composer Code. I'm planning to expand Composer Code beyond just a podcast into YouTube documentaries on specific games or composers, tutorials, blog posts, maybe even an actual published book one day. If this kind of content interests you, I'd love to make you a part of that journey. I also love hearing from my listeners, so if you have feedback or comments, or if you're a composer and you'd like to be on the show, definitely hit me up on Facebook, send me a DM on Twitter, or you could just send me an email, matt@mattkenyon.net. Thanks again so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.